Good evening and welcome to this evening's Bromford and Hodge Hill Ward Forum meeting. This evening's agenda is around cleaner streets and safer streets special. Before I introduce our guests this evening, can I just ask everyone to keep their microphones on mute during the meeting. You may keep your cameras on if you wish so, but please keep your microphones on until the time that you wish to speak. First of all, we're going to go with the presentations, and then after I'll give the guests opportunity to ask questions to our presenters. So I must advise everyone that this meeting is being recorded and will be live streamed via the Council's YouTube website. Right, so first of all, I'll introduce our guests. We have Samira Brown, and she's the Acting Service Manager from Love Your Streets. And she's accompanied by her colleague, Scott Lee, the Assistant Service Manager who organises the mobile household recycling centres. So if we start with Samira and then move on to Scott, and then we'll follow up with Sergeant Alan Keynes from the Hodge Hill Police. So over to you, Samira. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. This is my first time on this ward forum. I just basically came in to introduce myself and let you know who I am, who you can approach for the Love Your Streets. I've been doing it for 2 weeks now, but I come from the operational side of the street cleansing. If anyone wants to ask me questions, if I can answer, I will answer, if that's okay.
Sorry, Samira.
Go on. Sorry, Councillor. If anybody's, would like to ask me anything, that's fine. This is my first meeting tonight, and I just wanted to introduce myself to all of you to say who I am, and, if anyone wants to ask me any questions, thank you.
If you could tell us more about the Love Your Streets initiative, and then we can take some questions after.
Well, the Love Your Streets is like working along with what I've been doing at the moment, working alongside with the communities, the councillors, all the stakeholders that have been involved. I'm not part of the stakeholder section of that. I'm just the operational side, where if they want an all-day event to clean up their certain ward, I will provide all the necessary transport and equipment and some manpower to help alongside with some of the community pickers if they want to join, and with the councillors to make a difference for the street, give it a good deep clean, and hopefully educate people more on the cleanliness of the streets.
That's excellent. I think we need to do more about education in the. I think that's vital. We've got some very good active groups in our ward, of which we've got a member here this evening. That's Jill, and they do a lot of brilliant work in the ward. But I think we need to educate the youngsters coming up, and the school children in particular, about.
Sorry, Councillor, both Scott and myself are going to start arranging that towards June to go to the schools and educate the children. And I'm sure Scott can talk a bit more about that as well himself. Yeah. So it's a new project that we're starting. So, we're learning each time as we go along, Excellent.
We had a HLB meeting last night, and we're going to the HLB is going to arrange a clean-up day as well with different groups on the Bromford, but we'd like to see it in other areas of the ward as well. So is it limited to one day, or is it going to be on different day? Will there be more than one event?
Well, the way I've seen it, I had one for the Moseley ward where we did it on the one day. It needed to be like continued, really, you know, and I went in it for the 2 days. It's all depending, you know.
Can I just interrupt?
Sorry.
For a moment? Sorry, Samira. Welcome, Pete. I was just going to ask you to put your microphone on mute, but you've just done it now. Yeah, welcome. My name's Councillor Diane Donaldson. I'm one of the local councillors. Are you a resident? You're on mute. Hi, hello, welcome.
That better?
Yeah, that's better. Welcome to this evening's meeting. My name's Councillor Diane Donaldson. Yes, we haven't seen you at a previous meeting, so I'd just like to say welcome. And we've got 3 guests here this evening who are going to give presentations around Love Your Streets, and we've got the Sergeant from Hodge Hill, Sergeant Alan Keynes. I'll be joined by my colleague, Councillor Majid Mahmood, shortly, who's been held up at an advice surgery. So we've started the meeting already, and we're just in the middle of Samira giving her presentation about Love Your Streets. So sorry to interrupt you, Samira, if we can go back to your presentation. Thank you.
Since it started, Councillor, we've been doing mainly the 1 days because we work alongside with the MHRC. So we have to focus it on the 1 day at the moment, but I'm sure there's, you know, there'll be room if people need more, you know, time or more, couple of more days or whatever. I'm sure we could sort of accommodate that, but it's about the resources as well, you know, getting all the resources together because of the ward work that's already been done by, you know, all the crews in all the depots.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I understand. I mean, the resources are limited, but if we could sort of stretch to 2 days and have different parts of the ward, that would be really good.
Yeah, yeah, we could look into that, Councillor.
Thank you, that would be much appreciated.
Councillor Donaldson, there's a couple of things in the chat, a couple of comments and questions in the chat.
Okay. Thanks, Bev. I've got Jill who said, linking up with Tame Valley School to do a litter pick on the 25th of March in the Bluebell Woods on Bromford. Make a note of that. And I could publicise that for you, Jill. And if I can make it, I will. That's on a Friday, I believe. Yeah. And what time is that taking place? What time will that be held, Jill? 1 to 3 p.m. Thank you. Okay, I'll publicise that for you. And other comments? There's, I'm not sure who's asked, but somebody has asked, how much notice will residents need to give? I think that's to Samira.
Okay, at the moment, it's normally we'd like at least, I think, say about a week so we can arrange it, but you know, and that's how it has been at the moment until it gets, you know, all set in place properly. But I'd say give enough notice for about a week so it can be organised, and then, I mean, Scott does his within the 3 weeks so we can work alongside each other so that it's all together.
Yeah, that would be beneficial. We could organise it together. So yeah, organising it around the
MHRC.
Yeah, MHRC. We give more than a week's notice, and we'd publicise it to residents, because we send out every time there's a mobile household recycling centre in the ward, we print off leaflets and we deliver them to about 1,000 to 1,500 households. So we do get a good turnout at the mobile recycling centres. We held one yesterday, and people were there already at 7 o'clock, parked up, ready with their items to dispose of them. So they're becoming really popular. So yeah, if we can organise it in conjunction with that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, we've been joined by Councillor Majid Mahmood, who's just joined us now. So welcome. And if you'd like to ask any questions to Samira around the Love Your Streets project or any of the residents, please feel free.
Samira, Sergeant Kane from Hodge and Mowbray team. Are we predominantly just looking at local streets, side streets, or we're looking at Washford Heath Road down towards Drews Lane and Common Lane?
Sorry, I didn't catch all that.
I can answer that for you. It's this is just for the Bromford and Hodge Hill ward. So the Washwood Heath, that would come under the Ward End ward, and they'll have their own separate initiative. But this is exclusively for Bromford and Hodge Hill ward.
Thanks, Jill.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Sorry, in response to that as well, I do believe it's more about education than anything else, because you haven't got to be, how should I put it? Everybody knows that rubbish should go into a bin, and if you just educate the general public and neighbourhoods, because if your neighbourhood's clean and you just enforce it by saying if you clean your neighbourhood, you're going to have less criminality. It's the broken window syndrome. So if we have a nice clean neighbourhood, we cut down the amount of crime that we attract towards the area.
I think we're already seeing that. There's the streets have improved as to what they were. We're getting less fly tipping. It reached the height of the pandemic. We're seeing tremendous amounts of fly tipping, but now it's got much better. So, but education, as before you came in, we were discussing that education, and the Love Your Streets have got some projects that they're going to go into schools and do education with young children. So I think that's where we need to start, really.
Yeah, definitely, because what we're going to try and do when we get to the primary schools, we're going to try and push that as well to make kids be proud of the streets and where they live.
Absolutely, and if we can get some school children on board for these clean-up days, that would be fantastic. I've got another question from Jill, who's saying mobile recycling problem for elderly people living on their own and without transport. Yeah, it is. This is an extra service that we're providing. We'll move on to the mobile recycling anyway, because that's Scott is going to talk about that. But we'll leave that question for Scott.
Councillor
Okay.
Pete, Scott,
Please, you've got your hand up. So would you?
Yeah, my question is fly tipping and actual rubbish on the floor anyway. It should be a two-pronged attack, shouldn't it? Because education's one side, but there's also got to be some sort of enforcement as well. Because in the city centre, they're quite happy to stop people from throwing cigarettes on the floor and fining them. But when was the last time you saw an environmental health officer in our ward actually giving out fines or you know, picking up people that do rubbish?
Yeah, we've given out big fines for fly tipping, but litter that's on another level. It's down to cost really, and having the budget to employ officers, but that's something we can look into, and hopefully, you know, employ more enforcement officers going forward.
Well, I was speaking to somebody from environmental health,
Yeah.
You said if you do want people to come out, then you have to ask for it. And if no
We
one's
have
asked
to,
for
and
it,
that's
then they
what we
won't
do
come
as
out.
proactive counsellors. We're always asking, requesting the service. Councillor Majid Mahmood's got his hand up, so if you'd like to come in, Majid.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Apologies for being late. I was actually at my advice surgery at Hodge Church, so I had to drive back from there. I didn't risk actually putting my phone on for the meeting whilst I was coming back. Just a couple of things I'm just going to pick up on. What Pete said, it's hello Pete, not seen you for a while as well. Good to have you back.
Ill.
Been
Hang
ill.
on, I want to get my hand down now. That's better. Sorry.
Well, I'm glad you're in better health now, and we've seen you again, because obviously we didn't have any meetings during COVID and stuff, public meetings, and Pete used to be one of the regular attendees. It was good to have you back, and I'm glad you're in good health now. On the prosecution, we have asked the question around, because when you look at the enforcement figures, Ladywood is always the highest, and then you get some in Moseley and you get some in Erdington. But when I picked up on this, when I was a member of the Licensing and Public Protection Committee, the feedback from officers was that under the Environmental Act, or I think some other legislation that's come through, officers have to have a good chance of prosecution, and they tend to go to places where basically it's effectively worth their while to go. So Ladywood, you're always going to pick up people throwing items like cigarettes on the floor, but it's a bit more tricky in smaller shopping centres. So I think that's the reason. But again, the council has invested a considerable amount of money in enforcement. One of the things that we do need is people to come forward. But again, I understand that sometimes people don't want to dob their neighbours, etc., if it is a neighbour. But a lot of the occasions in Bromford and Hodge, we've actually been quite lucky where a lot of people have got CCTV, a lot of people have supported us. I remember the one occasion on Brockus Road where there was two individuals, they dropped a mattress. It's quite funny actually, because one of the individuals had a small packet, or I don't know what it was, but she actually used the public bin, to deposit the small little packet she had. But then at the same time, she hauled out a mattress to chuck onto the next to the playing field on Brockus Road. And because of the response from the public, and then we put it onto social media, and the Birmingham Live picked it up, and the person that one of the individuals was working for, because there was some identification on the vehicle that was being used, they actually stopped his contract with him. So that sent a message to him and others that, look, we're not going to take it for people coming to here to flight rubbish. But on a daily basis, myself, Diane, and I think Jill is in the meeting as well. We report so many fly tipping incidents across the ward. It's I think that's one of the reasons why we can tend to keep it clean as well. Given the amount we report, it is quite picked up pretty quick as well by officers. And the mobile household recycling truck, we do advertise it really well, in the sense that on this occasion, I think it was between 1,200 to 1,400 letters we delivered. So we'll have a look at the location and we'll identify the location, work with officers. Yesterday, I had to come out at 7 in the morning because the road that was initially identified, the location, there was some roadworks happening as well, some resurfacing works. So I wanted to make sure they get the proper spot where it would be safe for residents to turn up as well. And it was a real good response yesterday. A lot of people came and we've had a lot of feedback. There is some, we've allowed an amnesty in terms of, initially it wasn't for household waste, but because of the missed collections we've had, people are able to use it now for household waste as well, because there's been a shortage of drivers. And secondly, I know we're looking at seeing if we can expand it. So if the truck is there and there's some rubbish just close by, officers are really good. They do pick that up, and I think they are now insured to be able to do that. But going forward, I would like to see an expansion of the mobile household recycling truck, and that's to engage. Like, we've got a lot of land in the Bromford, especially is housing land. So we have separate tipper crews that pick that up. It's not from the depots, and it would be good to marry the two together. So say we've got a mobile household recycling truck coming, then we can speak to the housing officer, say, look, you've got your tipper crew, why don't you go around, pick up everything today? Say if you're going to the tip, you can just come to the truck and use that as well. I think it's happening in other wards as well. So that's something that we're working on. And I've got a meeting hopefully in the next week or two with some of the officers from housing. See, we did try it for yesterday, but I think it's too late for us to try that. I think that would make it like some sort of community event. If we get any in the summer, on the assumption we both get re-elected, then it's something that I think we can look into, where we have lots of different, but even including parks, because a lot of the fly tipping we also get is around Hodge Common. And again, it's the parks team that picks that up. It's not your depots that picks up any fly tipping in parks. So there's several departments that are responsible for that, and highways as well. They get involved. But the biggest issue I would have, and just wondering if Love Your Streets can help with this, is I mean, just now when I just came out of my advice surgery, just walking back to the car, is the road sign for Cllr Road. Again, someone's graffitied all of it, so you can't even read Cllr Road, because whoever graffitied that, I think then their tag is Piper or something. That's what made that it to be written. We do need some action on graffiti. We've got loads of, I don't think there's many electricity and cable BT boxes and cable boxes in the ward, or even in our neighbouring ward of Ward End or Glebe Farm or Shard End, where there isn't graffiti. We do need some action on the graffiti across the ward, because I think someone mentioned, as I switched the laptop on, about the cleaner the area, the less sort of like other ASB you tend to get, and the more, the worse the area is, the worse like the fly tipping. It, rubbish attracts rubbish in my mind. So if you, like, for example, even if you've got a missed collection, if you've got a pile of bags, it acts like a magnet. I think education is key. When we rolled out the wheelie bins here in Bromford and Hodge, I managed to speak to some of the schools. They were really good, and they gave some sort of like private tuition effectively through their normal classes around how to use the wheelie bins and stuff for kids. And I think that's where it starts. If the kids know how to use the wheelie bins, they'll know how to recycle, and then other issues such as, like, not throwing rubbish on the streets, etc., that comes into their mind. With my children, my nephew and nieces, even if they eat a chocolate in the car or crisp packet, I make sure it's not chucked out. I make sure they bring it home. And if everyone had that attitude, and we reverted back to everyone keeping their frontage of their properties, it would be a lot better. But the biggest issue I think we do have is around the housing land, because again, that's down to the tipper crews, and we have argued at all meetings that we have with officers from housing for more resources to be able to pick that up, because the contracts are separate, ones for the depot and ones for the housing. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Majid. Around education, I think there's if we had some more leaflets to give to people, because some, especially incoming communities, they don't know how to use the recycling bins, and it's confusing, and they mix the rubbish up.
That's pissed me off again. Does it break stuff?
Majid, you've got your microphone on. And
Sorry.
It's okay. And they're not aware of how to use the pods, so it gets confusing. They mix the recycling up. So I think if we could have some literature that we could deliver to households, educating them how to use the recycling bins more effectively. Samira, you've got your hand up. Did you want to
I just wanted to comment with what Councillor Majid Mahmood's just said about the graffiti in your area. What we do on the all-out days, we make sure we have all resources possible, and the graffiti team will be out there. And what I do is send them out the day before to go and check what needs to be done. They normally, paint, like you said, the electric boxes and things like that up. So that will be in place as well for that day that, we arrange to come to your wards. And all the other resources like the housing, the parks should be there as well, with, alongside with the police and everyone else.
Parks is a massive problem. It's more difficult, I find, to get fly tipping removed from parks, and especially on Bromford, there's a lot of fly tipping, but it's difficult to access. There's no way to. It's very difficult to access, especially in the bluebell woods, is to remove the fly tipping. So that's where there's been some fly tipping that's been there for quite a while, and I have reported it, but it's not getting moved.
Is that predominantly because the bushes need like cutting back, do you think, as well? Do you have issues with the bushes?
It's, I suppose, because it's on a hill and it's bushy, it's in the bushes and it's on a hill and the steps are not very good. And to get the truck, it would be, you'd need at least, in my mind, 3 people to do it, and it would be a lot of carrying up and down, so it is very difficult. But we think it's residents who lived there who, when it was a private rental, and then when the previous tenants were there, they just put everything basically in the woods at the back of their gate.
Again, on that, Councillor Diane, if things was not accessible for the vehicles to get to a certain spot, they would take the, like the big baths with them and carry them down like that, pulling them down. So if there's no excess, they'd go in a group and put it all in a bath and then bring it down.
Okay, and it's parks, so I think that's the parks have the issue of resources more. Highways and housing land, it's much easier, but when it comes to parks, it seems to be a much slower process. Okay, so I've got a couple of people now with their hands up. I'll go back to Councillor Mahmood and then Pete, then you can come in.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just hi, Samira. I just realised you were in the meeting as well. Graffiti is a problem, and it's the same locations keep getting hit. This is the bigger problem. For example, I'll give you one classic example. Is Greg's. Although it's not in our ward, it's just opposite our ward on Bromford Lane. And poor people at Greg's, I've lost count how many times they've painted their frontage, their shutters, because of graffiti. It keeps coming back, and now they've just given up. And because they've given up, it looks bad on our ward of Bromford and Hodge. And then there's a electric box which is on the corner of Brockhurst Road. Same thing. That's always graffitied. Nearly all the electric boxes I've seen, they're graffitied. And it would be really, really useful if we could have, I'm not sure, do we have a dedicated officer or a dedicated team that we could just take on a walkabout across the whole of Bromford and Hodge Hill? And then at the same time, we could knock doors of people, because I know you need consent of the businesses or the householders to have the graffiti removed. If we could do that on a specific morning or afternoon with the officers, and then at the same time, if we could be given, many years ago, we were given a kit, graffiti removal kits as well, just for the smaller sort of like areas like lampposts and stuff. If that could be made available as well to us, and then as councillors, we can go around, working with community groups. We could also help the council doing that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Majid.
Majid, just a quick question. Have you got any images of the graffiti and exactly where it is?
Yeah, I can provide you with all that tomorrow.
Yeah, if you can, because by
photos.
Yeah, by right.
Greg's is one of them on Bromford Lane. I honestly feel sorry for them, because on top of Greg's, you've got the gym that I attend, and I feel sorry for Greg's. It's like they must have spent so much money removing that graffiti. Then you got the graffiti that happens on the substation outside the Tesco on Brockhurst Road. Then you got the electric box on Brockhurst Road corner and Bromford Lane. There's nearly every electric box, and today it's the graffiti on the Cllr Road, which I'll post later on as well. Because the one thing that people have told me, and people who know about graffiti, that there's tags that are being used by the people who are doing the graffiti. So surely we must know who those tags belong to, and those individuals, you can have a word with them, a quiet word with them. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, to be fair, it wouldn't be a quiet word because it's criminal damage at the end of the day. But if you send us the details and the images, we can try and do some intelligence around it and find out who it is. Because I'm obviously tagging every single box around there. At the end of the day, if they start tagging it, it just grows and grows and grows. So to give us the information, we'll try and pick it up. All right.
Thank you.
It will do.
Okay. Pete's had his hand up for a while now, so I'll move over to Pete and then I'll take Samira.
Just a couple of points, if I may.
Yeah.
First of all, is there no such thing as anti-graffiti paint yet? And the other one is, who's responsible for the electric or telecommunications boxes. And if it's the actual companies themselves, can't they be told to come back and paint them? And then we could use the officers doing something else. Just a couple of points.
Thank you. I think we have in the past been in contact with some of the services, and they have come out and painted them. Samira, would you like to come in on this?
Yeah, just would like to say to Councillor Majid Mahmood, if he wants to organise or if he wants to meet any of the graffiti crews and take them around, then I'll arrange that. Or if he wants to send any of the pictures himself, we'll get that sorted. We do small graffiti kits as well, which we do give out graffiti kits if that's okay for the communities that go out and do their community pics, so that's available as well. Majid.
Yes, that's great. I'll send you an email, Samira.
No problem, thank you.
Thank you, Samira. Pete, you got your hand up. Did you anything
Is
further?
my hand still up, is it? Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
I would say graffiti kits might be a good idea, but you'd have to provide some training, I think.
Training, yeah.
Because the chemicals they
Yeah.
use, I'd imagine, are quite powerful. And how do I lower my hand? Oh, it's been lowered, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry, it's me taking charge.
Strong chemicals. So, is there training available, Samira, for residents who'd be willing to use these kits?
If I can come back to you on that one, I'm not going to say yes, and but I will come back to you, because I don't think we would give something out without the relevant training being given anyway. So I'll get back to you on that if that's okay, Councillor Diane.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Samira. Okay. Is there any more questions for Samira before we move over to Scott?
Just looking, Samira, can we just have the dates when you're going to do the cleanups there? I can send some PCSOs along to support that as well.
Do you mean for the Hodge Hill ward, the Bromford Hodge Hill ward? I don't know who was speaking then, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was the sergeant, but we'll let you, as soon as I've got the dates, I'll share them with all the relevant parties. So yeah, I'll keep you up to date on that, but we'd like to arrange 2 in the ward at least, if we've got the resources. So we cover, most of the ward. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, Samira. Okay, so I don't believe we've got any further questions for Samira. Okay, so thank you, Samira, once again, and we'll move over to your colleague, Scott Lee, who is, sorry, it was your Assistant Service Manager for the Mobile Household Recycling Centres. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I'm Scott Leaf. I'm based at Lifford Lane Depot down in Kings Norton, and I'm a freshly appointed ACT-UP ASM looking after the MHRC service. So just like Samira, I've been in post now for about 2 weeks. Previous to that, I was actually out on the MHRCs as a HGV driver and operator of the recycling vehicle, and I've been on the project since day one, since the very first vehicles turned up at Lifford back in June last year, and have helped to develop the MHRC project, how it works, how we deploy it, and now I've stepped up to take over the management of it, and helping to liaise with councillors and the rest of the waste management service to make the best use of it for the residents of Birmingham. I've had the pleasure of meeting Councillor Donaldson and Councillor Mahmood a couple of times now, I think, while I've been on the vehicles. and the overall and overwhelming response to the project has been very, very positive, and we're seeing a large number of residents actually making use of the service now, as the word and the information about it gets more widespread, and obviously residents are getting used to seeing the vehicles out, understand now what it is, and how to use it, and just like Samira, I'm quite happy to try and answer any queries and questions about it, and give you as much information as I can.
Thanks, Scott. I've got a question that Jill asked earlier. It's about it's a problem for elderly people living on their own and without transport to access the service.
Yes, we're fully aware that the MHRC is not a sweeping all-in-one solution that is accessible to everyone. But what it does do is bring the normal or part of the normal services that you would find at the tip, which is obviously fixed and which you have to make an appointment to go to, out into the communities. So while we quite readily accept it's not 100% accessible, it does give that greater accessibility to a tipping service for the bulk of residents.
Samira, you've put your hand up.
I just would like to say, like, whilst we've been working together, like the MHRC and also the Love Your Streets, when we go round, and if any of the elderly, I'm just saying now, that require help with the vehicles that we've got on site, not the MHRC where they're parked, but with the crusher vehicles that we have, we assist as well in that sense, you know, whilst we're around there. So if people are coming out from the homes and they're unable to carry this stuff or whatever, we will assist in that sense.
Thank you. I've noticed that some of the crew have helped elderly, but I think that's dependent on the crew, and it's not something that we could request. It's up to their goodwill, so to speak.
In fairness, the crews are told that they do have to stay with the vehicles, and that is their primary job and primary job description, if you like. Yes, some of the crews will go that little extra mile to help people, and if a member of the public is obviously struggling but is within easy reach from the vehicles, then I would suggest that, and I would hope that they would, the crews would help. We just cannot be seen to be going from house to house, picking people's rubbish up, because that's not the purpose of it. And the problems come that if one resident sees it being done, another resident expects it to be done. And as I say, the crews just aren't able to do that, and be at the sort of like beck and call of the residents. They do have to stay with the vehicles as much as possible.
Yeah, thank you. I've seen some ingenious methods of getting the rubbish to the vehicles. People are using their wheelie bins, and you know, coming from quite a distance with the wheelie bin, the rubbish in the wheelie bin, and
yes, definitely. Yeah.
And the crew helping them unload it into the lorry. Yeah. But on the whole, the crews that we've had in our ward have been fantastic, and you know, they've helped people unload items from the cars, and very, very good. You can't fault the crews.
No, they are very, very good. Yeah. And as you rightly say, if cars pull up, sometimes before the drivers even got out the car, the crews are already in the boot and pulling stuff out, obviously making sure that they are actually taking the right stuff out of the boot and not emptying somebody's shopping bags. But yeah, they are a very good set of crews that we have. and we do try and impress on them to be as helpful as possible.
Brilliant. Thank you. Pete, would you like to come in?
Yeah, mine's just a general question, if I may,
Yeah.
about the normal tips. I didn't realise you still had to have an appointment to go to them. And
Yes.
I don't know why is that, because COVID restrictions have been lifted anyway, and sometimes you just want to, you might start a job, right, and then if you can't go straight to the tip, then you've got to store it either outside your house or somewhere else before you can take it to the tip. I just don't understand why you've still got to have an appointment.
It's something that has started during COVID, and this, it works. It's been working well. We've had a lot of fly tipping. Initially, because the Castle Vale tip is on the boundary with Solihull, a lot of people from Chelmsley Wood, etc., are coming over to tip their rubbish instead of going to Beacon Hill. So that saved the council a lot of money because we're not disposing of the rubbish from Chelmsley Wood. But I'm sure there are other reasons as well, but I can look into that, or if anybody here has an insight into that. Councillor Mahmood, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Sorry, I'm in the middle of a building project as well with some builders, as you could probably tell with the banisters comment. What I was going to say was, yeah, Pete, initially it was brought in the changes because of COVID. That's right, at the tip. But it's worked really well, and from what I understand, not more so to do with Tameside Drive, because that's always been quite well used, but hasn't been extensively used. But places like Lifford, they've always had queues of traffic, and it's always caused problems. And this is a better way of managing the traffic flow. But I agree with you 100%. Sometimes you start a job and you just want to get to the tip, as opposed to just leaving it in the front drive. But what we have been told by officers when we flagged it up in private meetings is that on 90% of the time you can find a slot on the same day, so it's not as bad as it sounds, in the sense that you log on and you're not going to get an appointment for the same day. So I've been told most of the time you do get an appointment at the same time. The mobile house recycling trucks, they've been really well used. Honestly, within Bromford and Hodge, and I'm sure when the figures are released for the ward, you'll probably see that our ward is probably one of the best in the city in terms of usage. And that's, primarily thanks to all the different community groups, Hodge Residents Group, whereas the Bromford, everyone promotes it, myself and Diane. We've got letters which we send out to approximately between 1,000 and 1,500 people, depending on where they are, where the truck's located. And I've met Scott on a few occasions now. He's come quite early, as well, 7 in the morning, to start helping residents with the trucks. In fact, I know this week we had, just yesterday, we had a number of residents from outside of the ward as well, and they just based it on the advertising that myself and Diane have been doing on Facebook and Twitter as well. So it does show that it's reached out. And I know there are other parts of the city where they haven't worked as well, but again, I think the community groups there, the residents groups and the elected members, they can do a bit more promotion around that. The locations, I think Jill's asked the question, the locations are done in consultation with elected members. So I and Dan, we sent through 16 locations through to the depot based on feedback from residents. And also they need to make sure that the truck, the 2 trucks can fit in that location, and it gives ample room for people in cars to come and offload their items in the trucks as well. But Folkestone Croft, that is a good location. The only thing I would say is that whenever I've gone to Folkestone Croft to meetings at Ambridge House or to see residents, the car parks tends to be full. So I'm not sure where we would be able to get that truck. But if we can do, but we've given the location just by the parade of shops on Bromford Drive, and we've already used one location at the top end of Bromford Drive. But I think we could probably use the middle of Bromford Drive as well. There shouldn't really be an issue there as well. But we try to get, I think the way it's working, Scott could tell me different, but I think it's based on the depots are trying to get a mobile household visit to the wards every 3 to 4 weeks. So we tend to get 1 or possibly 2 in the month, and that's across the city as well. So you can imagine it. We've got, I think it's 69 wards in the city, so 67 or 69. So there's quite a lot of activity that's happening there, and the officers have been brilliant. I'm not going to take anything away from the officers. I think it's been mentioned about elderly people not being able to bring their furniture out. I've actually, to help an elderly resident, I've taken a canoe from the top of Fairholme Road all the way to the bottom of Fairholme Road to help. I tend to go around about 7 when the trucks are here, and I do my best to help. But obviously, I've got to get to work as well. But I do my best to help. And the night before, if people call me to tell me they need help, then we always make sure they get the help. And the officers themselves, they will go if they see someone dragging or bringing through items. They would always go and help them. Always, I've not seen an occasion where an officer has not gone to help a resident bring over items, even if they're not heavy or large items. They've gone and helped. I witnessed that myself yesterday, and it's also a good way of bringing the community together as well. So if you have got an elderly resident and you've got a truck coming in, knock the door and offer to help them as well. That's it's a sense of community belonging as well for everyone. So I'm very supportive, and I know I heard yesterday that I think this initiative has been recognised nationally as well, and Birmingham City Council has been shortlisted for an environmental award through the Local Government Association as well. So good luck there. So hopefully we can win that award as well. And as a Labour Council, in the budget we've agreed to make this permanent as well. So it'll continue for at least the next 4 years. And if people have said bulky collections, the way I look at it, this is a bulky collection for residents, because that's what we're giving. If we've got a map, and Chair will tell you, we've got a map where we've delivered the letters, and we've covered the whole of the Bromford Hodge ward now. So every single resident in Bromford Hodge ward has had a letter to inform them that there's a mobile house or recycling centre within the vicinity of their street coming. And again, if once we get the next location, we normally get told a day or two after the previous visit. So the visit was yesterday. So probably tomorrow morning we'll get told where the next location is, and then we'll advertise that again. And on our letters, we can adjust that to say if there's any residents that need any help, Chair, we can add that onto the letters as well, and then we'll ensure that they get the help that they need. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Majid. And it is an initiative that's been rolled out in other parts of the country. I was in Wales and I saw one of the recycling wagons, the ones with the different for the paper and the different items. I saw they got their own initiative there, so it's very popular.
Yeah, can I just add on to some of the comments with regards to locations in the wards? Something I'm doing as time goes along is actually taking each ward in turn and mapping out the locations that we've already visited in order to find out where there are gaps within the ward where the vehicle hasn't been, and thereby trying to find locations to fill those gaps and try to even out the attendance of the MHRC within each ward. And thereby allow more residents easier access to it. So that is something that I'll be doing over the next couple of months. As Councillor Mahmood says, there are 69 wards in Birmingham that we're dealing with. We have 4 sets of vehicles to deploy across those 69 wards. So as you can imagine, organising all those is quite a task, and making sure that everybody gets a fair level of access to it. Also, as Councillor Mahmood has rightly said, he will be receiving an email from me tomorrow with the latest map and date for the next one. Yeah, that'll be coming through the pipeline tomorrow.
Thank you, Scott. Pete, you've got your hand up.
Again, sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, I think this is a good scheme, but I'd like to go back to Tameside Drive if I may. So you have to book an appointment, which I've done, and I've been down to Tameside Drive. It's like it's been deserted now. You can just drive straight down there, which is a good thing, because before you had to stay in a queue perhaps for anything up to an hour to get in. But I'm just wondering, if it's that quiet now, what are the loads like that they're getting at Tameside Drive? And is it different to before? And if it's not the same or similar, where's all that extra recycling and rubbish going?
I couldn't answer that off the top of my head, but I know a lot of it.
Oh, no, I wouldn't have thought so, sorry.
Yeah, a lot of that is from Charmsy Wood, and that's what booking in. It stops people from Solihull offloading their rubbish, so it is saving the taxpayer, because that rubbish has to be disposed of some way, and it comes at a cost. So it is saving Birmingham City Council taxpayers money.
Can I come back on that?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, so the other thing we're trying to encourage as the City Council is improving air quality. Right, so people that live perhaps up on Castle Bromwich, asking them to take all their rubbish across the whole of Solihull to Biggin Hill or wherever it is. Is it over by the airport?
Biggin Hill, yeah, by the airport.
Well, how's that going to help anyway? And surely collection of rubbish and disposal of it is sort of a national thing, really.
Well,
you know,
unless
the money comes out.
The council wants to pay us to dispose of it, that's.
I just think that's a little bit short-sighted, if I may.
Fair point. That's something I can raise with the cabinet member, but there'd have to be an agreement. But it would be the same if Tameside Valley was in Solihull and we wanted to put our rubbish into Solihull. I'm sure they wouldn't be very happy about it. But I'll ask the question for you. Okay. Councillor Mahmood?
Yeah, I agree, Chair. I'm more than happy for residents of Solihull to use Tameside Drive, subject to a payment to the City Council, so that the taxpayers of Birmingham aren't funding Solihull Council, and they've got a lot more money than us anyway. They still give elected members big fancy lunches during meetings. We stopped that years ago because we've got no funding for that. But on a serious note, there is quite a lot of expense in terms of disposing of the rubbish, and the one thing that has probably lessened the demand at the tips has been the mobile household recycling trucks, because people have been able to dispose of their items. And the other thing that we do here in Bromford and Hodge, I'm sure it happens across the city, is if residents come with items which we think another resident or a community group could make full use of, we always ask them to be put to the side of the truck, and we enable people. We do a Facebook video and we let residents know that there are items here that you may want to be able you may be able to use in your community group or somewhere else. And I think that's really helpful, because it's not just about disposing of items, it's also about recycling of items as well, to make full use of them. So, from me, Scott, just give my massive thank you to all of the staff that have been operating on the trucks. They've been fantastic, and the weather's now getting slightly better, but last few months the weather's been really, really bad as well, and they've been out there and they've been helping, and on a number of occasions they've gone the extra mile in jumping through people's gardens and stuff to help them with items, and really, really appreciate that. And the residents themselves have had probably more positive feedback about the mobile household recycling trucks than anything else. And I have seen an impact on reduced fly tipping across the city as well since the introduction of the mobile household recycling trucks. Although we have bits of stuff that are chucked here and there in Bromford and Hodge, it's actually a fairly clean ward in comparison to other parts of the city, and that's down to residents and community groups such as Hodge residents groups and Furs and Bromford, got Hodge litter pickers, and we've also got a number of residents. We've got little Yusuf as well, who started a litter picking group just off on Ashby Close where he lives, and he gets a lot of neighbours involved, and it all helps if everyone keeps their parts of their little areas clean, then it helps everyone. So and we are tackling that, because I think we mentioned about enforcement as well. We are put some extra resources into enforcement. I think it's really, really important that when we do catch criminals, because that's what they are, criminals for dumping stuff, that, you know, we throw the book at them, and it sets an example and acts as a deterrence for everybody else who is even thinking of doing that. And we've got probably the record for the, I think it was about 20,000, Chair, wasn't it, for the chemicals that were dumped on the Bromford that you reported.
Including cost, it was 27,000.
27 is one of the highest
Yeah.
fines that we've got, and we did that here. We also exposed the individual who was dumping the mattress as well, and he lost his contract with the people that he was working with. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Majid. Pete, did you want to come in on that? Got your hand
If I
up.
could,
Yeah,
could I
certainly.
just sound a word of warning on recycling. I'm all for recycling and reusing, but if the council, as such, if you put something next to the truck and say, you know, somebody can use that, do the council not then become liable because they're saying this is suitable for you to use elsewhere? If somebody then has an accident with it and it comes back because it's faulty, does the council not become liable then? Yeah, I don't know. I'm just asking the question.
That's not something that we have really. It's not something that's generally organised across all of the MHRC. So it tends to be quite a local thing, and obviously Councillor Mahmood is promoting that through his social media and things, and it's fine. There's no issue as such with that, other than the fact that obviously, yes, if somebody does take something, then they've got to be told that it's, you know, it's kind of taken on the basis that they need to test it or get it tested or, you know, do repairs or whatever. And certainly the kind of things that are put to one side are not electrical items. So you're talking more sort of like pedal bikes and
Yeah, we've had numerous bikes. Yeah.
So I think, yes, that is definitely a valid point, and it's something that I will go away and double check on, because I do not want the crews to be at all you know, held liable for anybody having an accident as a result. The vehicles do additionally take reuse items away, and those are passed through to the reuse shop, which has been set up at Tyseley, where items, including electrical items, especially TVs and sort of like Dyson Hoovers, etc., they are serviced, tested, repaired, and given a clean bill of health before public are allowed to then purchase them. So that is something that is the primary destination for any reuse items that we take on board the vehicles. But I will double check the situation with regards to liabilities of roadside items which people take or are given access to.
Thank you, Scott. Councillor Mahmood.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just going to say, it's not Birmingham City Council that's encouraging residents to take any items. It's just me just saying that there's items that we haven't actually recycled just yet. We will recycle them 5 minutes to 12 p.m. So it's like with anything, if someone's dropped something on the street and they don't want it anymore, anyone is free to pick them up. But again, I mean, Scott will go back and check to ensure that we're not held liable if things were to go wrong. And there are no electrical items that we leave behind anyways. It tends to be chairs and little items like baskets and stuff that we leave to residents to pick up if they wish to do so.
I think there's a scrap man that comes along and takes them if no one. He comes along at the end of the shift and takes them. Thank you, Councillor. Pete?
Sorry to raise my hand again.
No, you're more than welcome. It's
the example you gave of a bike, I think, is especially worrying, to be honest, because if somebody picks up a bike and then cycles off down the road and then tries the brakes and they don't work and has an accident, then they're going to say, hang on a minute, you said I could have that. I'm only being picky here now, but Do you know what I mean? There is a chain there. If I gave somebody a bike and they had an accident, and I said, well, I gave you the bike, it was up to you to check it. But I'd have to make sure that I told them that. And from what Scott said, I think that's what they're doing anyway. So it's probably covered anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen people walking up the road with bikes, and they're obviously there for going to dispose them, and then other members of the public have come up, approached them, and taken the bikes off them before they've they've not even handed them over to the recycling crews. I've got Councillor Mahmood, you want to come in?
Yeah, I remember an instance where there was a bike left, and I did ask the resident, I says, is this working? And he says, no, not really, I want it disposed. But then another resident came and he wanted the parts off the bike, so he took the bike away just for the parts, but knowing full well that it wasn't in a condition that he could ride it, but he just wanted the parts from it. Sometimes you'll get individuals coming who just need parts. But like the scrapmen, they come round and they take items like the the fridges. We all know they take a little part from the back, which they get about £2-3 for, but they don't need the rest of the fridge. That's why we sometimes have lots of fridges dumped across the city, because they're not worth anything to anyone. But yeah, but good points raised, Pete, and Scott's on it anyway from what he said already. And the reusers, there's a reusers centre in Sutton as well, which is really, really good. And I think you've got the one in Tyseley as well now, which is expanding. Again, if I've always said this, if we could have something of a similar nature at Tameside Drive, I think that would be really, really good as well. There is ample space there to accommodate that as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I think we've covered most things around the mobile household recycling centres. Is there anything else that you'd like to highlight, Scott?
No, not really. Other than to say, and really to reiterate some of the stuff that Samira said earlier, in that she and I are working together in order to organise these all-out days, and I'm sure that we can get something organised. Well, we will organise something as soon as we can for your ward. I can't. Obviously we can't give an actual sort of like exact time frame for that, but yeah, please be aware that we will be working to get something organised for you.
Brilliant. So we'll liaise on that, on dates and locations, etc. That's brilliant. Well, thanks to Samira and to Scott for their attendance and for informing us about their services. They're doing some excellent work in the ward, and we look forward to seeing them going forward. Thank you. Samira, thank you. Samira, would you like to come in?
I just want to say we're all, singing from the same hymn sheet here, that we want this to work, and that's my passion, that's Scott's passion, and we'll make sure it does work, because we've come from street cleansing, we understand the issues involved in that, and we will make this work, and I give my word on that, because that's my passion. So that's all I can say, and we'll work with the councillors, we'll work with the community, everyone, to make this work.
Thank you. It has to be a joined up effort from everybody, from the community, from all the services, councillors, working together, and we can make it work. It will work.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. Councillor Mahmood has put Samira Brown is the best. Right. Moving over, we've got Sergeant Alan Keynes from the Hodge Hill Police. Would you like to come in and speak to us about what's happening in the ward?
Hello, apologies, I was distracted at the moment. What would you like to know? I'm Sergeant Keynes. I work on Sheldon and Hodge Hill neighbourhood team. I've been here for a year. Been in the job best part of 20 years. I've worked across most parts of Brum, so quite experienced and understand people's concerns. But I'll put it out there, I can't do everything without the help of everybody else. All right. I try my best, and I'm limited regarding numbers and so on and so forth. And plus, we have a massive turnover of students.
I've got some interference in the background. I can't.
Council meeting now.
Can you hear me now?
You,
Yeah.
Pete, can you put your
this time.
microphone on mute, please?
All right.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
That's
Hello?
better.
Right, you can hear me now, yeah. Like I said, I'm limited with what I can do because in touch with our daily work, we also get called for demand. So any 99 calls we have to turn out to. And I appreciate we have a lot of ASB, but I do act on what ASB and what information we do get. But my biggest issue is that people are saying stuff's happening and it's word of mouth, but we can't do nothing unless it's actually recorded or reported to us.
I mean, ASB, during the height of the pandemic, we had a lot of ASB in Bromford and Hodge. There are still pockets of ASB, but nowhere near as bad as it was.
Yeah, respect it. I was over Eddington when the ASB during the pandemic, and I came over to this side. And like I said, when we had lockdown, it did sort of quieten down. But I think it's on a manageable level at the moment because what ASB reference, crime, reference, harassment, that's what we have to decide. ASB we seem to have it is in relation to like school kids, in relation to people smoking cannabis, and obviously we've got a number of blocks of flats that we do try and look at. Like I said, I've got 2 dedicated police officers to give me a shot, and I've got technically 2 officers part-time, full-time, and the rest are all students. So we do have that revolving door. I will say, due to the Commonwealth Games, we are going to get pulled left, right, and centre because of demand and because we will be picking up most response jobs in relation to what's going on. So you might see a lack of police officers during the Commonwealth Games, but we will try and address that.
A lot of the ASB happen in our ward. We get groups congregating and using the nitrous oxide canisters. So it's not only the ASB aspect, which is disturbing local residents, but then they leave the mess behind them, which Jill, no doubt, is very aware of. You know, we've litter picks. We're always finding certain areas where there's a car of these canisters.
The only issue we have is that it technically isn't illegal to have them. If we do find people with them, we will actually take action against them. And I've looked at legislation regarding that because I'd argue the people that are selling these stuff to these youths and children potentially are putting them at risk. You know, so we're probably going to try and link up with some shops and see who's actually selling them.
If it's not illegal to sell them, I mean, is there some way you could say it's illegal because they're not selling them for making cakes? Let's be honest, it's for the purpose that they're selling them for.
Yeah, speaking to some of my younger colleagues, and I will say younger colleagues between 20 and 30, they're saying it's done just for quick legal high or illegal high, unfortunately. So if we do find people with them, we will straight away record an ASB. We will report them and deal with them appropriately.
Thank you. I've got Councillor Mahmood and Samira, so I'll take Councillor Mahmood and then Samira.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Alan. Good to finally have you at the meeting for Bromford and Hodge. We appreciate it. I know you have a very heavy schedule now.
That's massive.
Yeah, just a couple of points I wanted to pick up, which following on from the meeting that we had last time when we had some PC, we had some officers here, and we also had the Westminster Crime Commissioner. One of the biggest problems we have in Bromford and Hodge now is burglaries, and even some aggravated burglaries where we've had incidents. There was one just this week where we had some criminals trying to get into a property, and in one of them, I think they did get into the property during the daytime as well, not even in the evening, like during the daytime hours. And you know, these are the type of things that really, really scare the hell out of people. And there was lots of messaging on Facebook and lots of people posting pictures of the suspects, and it's got to the point where people keep approaching me and saying that if the police don't do anything in catching these people, we're going to have to take action ourselves. I know we've got various schemes where people can join up with Street Watch etc. But it is quite a heavy problem here. And coupled with that, now we've also got lots of all crime is crime, and I can't really classify high level, low level. But there's lots of, I'll just say for the purpose of this meeting, low level car crime, in the sense that it's not cars that have been robbed. It's like little things like the mirrors of cars have been robbed. Cars have been opened and people are taking items from the cars. On Bucklands End Lane, had a constituent call me on Monday, 7 cars, Tuesday, I think he called. There was 7 cars the night before where someone had gone round and was opening all the cars, looking for valuables within the cars. Yes, you shouldn't keep valuables in the cars, but sometimes what might not be valuable to one person might be valuable to somebody else. And that's quite worrying, because there was an incident in one of the avenues where a gang had come to try to take, we believe, a catalytic converter off the car. That's been a problem for us before, and they were disturbed and they went, but then they came back the next day for another car on the same road, which just kind of shows that criminals, they're not really worried about being caught or anything if they've got the desire to come back the next day. And I know last year, about 2 years ago, we had a real scary incident on Ryman Road where there was criminals with baseball bats, whilst one of the members of the gang was robbing a catalytic converter. The others were standing there, guarding the thief with baseball bats. Those are type things that we don't want to see, and those type of things where we really need police to take some visible action. And as Diane mentioned before, and Jill is aware, we've got lots of locations. For example, Hunter's Moon Car Park, they employ an individual just to pick up the gas canisters every Saturday and Sunday, Monday morning. Gilpin Close, same thing. They're on the Green, Kempton Park Road, same thing happens there. Folkestoncroft even. There's lots of little patches across the ward where people are using gas canisters. We see the evidence in the morning, but then the residents ask us, well, why did the police not do anything on the night time when these gangs were congregating? We did try to extend the public space protection order, but we were advised by the Office of the City Council that we can't just have a blanket public space protection order. So that just protects us up to the Tesco car. And Tesco have been fantastic. Need to mention them. We had lots of ASB around Tesco, but they worked with us. And they didn't have to. It's a private company ended there, but they worked with us, and they've now, put various obstacles in the car park so people aren't, racing or joyriding and hanging about on Tesco car park, creating a nuisance for the residents. And the final thing just wanted to flag up is the amount of vehicles we've got in Bromford and Hodge, which have no tax, and we report, and then there's always a tussle between the police, the DVLA and the City Council as to who's actually going to remove the vehicle. As far as I'm concerned, if it's got no road tax or no MOT, it should be moved. So simply that shouldn't be plonked on the street. I've got a car in my advisory today. I had a car report in Hodge Common, which has apparently been sitting there for 3 months now. And when I checked the details, the road tax had expired in December of last year. And there's another vehicle just outside of Bromford Hodge in Warden on Asquith Road, where the road tax had expired in January. So we need some sort of plan, whether it's the council, whether it's the DVLA or the police, to tell us that if there's no road tax for a month, the police will pick it up, or if there's no road tax for 2 months, the council will pick it up. But there needs to be a joint up approach, because one agency can't deal with that on their own. Because as far as I'm concerned, I want the police to be tackling, the big incidents like the violence and the other really bad crimes that are happening, and things like picking up cars. Surely that's something the council could be doing, or DVLA. But we need a system in place that not only we as elected members know, but also, more important, residents themselves know that if they report a car that hasn't got road tax, what's the time frame? Is it 2 months? Is it 3 months before someone will pick up, and who is the best person to speak to arrange for that to be picked up? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Majid.
All right, Councillor, that's quite a lot for me to come back to. Yeah. First of all, it's I'll start from the top. Burglary-wise, I have a review which I have to submit to my supervisor and to my SLT as well. Burglaries, although it will appear that we have a lot of burglaries on our patch, right? Crime-wise, we haven't. Now, I'm aware of the burglary on Tuesday where the lads used baseball bats. That was in relation to another incident. It wasn't a burglary per se. It was to do with somebody's job was being blocked because we did actually look at the log. We were looking for the people because the registration provided to us wasn't linked to any cars around the area, so we've actually been looking out for the cars. I do on a regular basis get my team. Any burgers we do, we look at, revisit the IPs, and try and look and see if we've got any leads regarding who can lock up. We've recently had a young lad locked up for a number of burglaries across the ward, and he was also linked to ones at the Hunter's Moon as well. So he's now being locked up, and that's now being dealt with. What I can do, because most of the burglaries happen 3-4 o'clock in the morning when we're off duty, which I'll say normally not during the. We did have one recently where someone was tried middle of the day, but that was back in February. But I think we managed to scare them off. But all we can do is get people to secure the property, install security measures as much as possible, and provide us with information regarding that. We do review at our for CID, do review all the burglaries because it is a forced priority across the ward. Because we've had a lot of home invasions across the whole of West Midlands and the wider country, and from that, a number of people were locked up regarding that. So we are doing our best to mitigate this risk to people. Councillor, still there?
Yes, thank you.
Any questions, anybody?
Yeah. I've got a question. Is there certain individuals that are going around of a night time during the night and then just trying car doors and going for loose change? Are these coming from exempt accommodations, these individuals? It seems to be, they're quite prolific, and I'm seeing them quite often on social media.
Right, got some good news for that. On Monday, some person was locked up for that type of offence, and that person linked to a number of offences across the road. Like Councillor Mahmood said, you should be able to leave your property, and if you want to leave £100 in your car, you should be able to leave your £100 in the car. But unfortunately, in the times of austerity, and I do predict with what's going on regarding the economic welfare of people, it's going to go through the roof again. You know, so we are going to face some challenging times. Let's accept the fact the economy is going for the roof at the moment. People are being squeezed left, right, and centre, and sometimes some people can't afford to, you know, pay simple bills. So I do see a rise. I'm not making an excuse for it, but I can see a rise. But all I can say is for people to lock their doors. If there's anything suspicious, tell us, because my biggest issue I have is that people don't tell us about stuff. You know, people tell the councillor, but tell us what's going on. Speak to the PCSOs. They see us walking around the street. Our hotspots, Tesco's, round by the Bromford. We have a number of bobbers around Bromford. Obviously, we've got 2 wards. We've got Ward in, and we've got Hodge on. We do patrol, and I will literally have my house, even myself, to try and patrol just to make sure we got the coverage. Like I said, historically, it's always happened in between 5 and 4 o'clock. And I've even sent emails to response teams to say, during that time, anybody walking around, fair enough, you can walk around like you can in this country, but if you're out there and we suspect you're up to no good, we're going to speak to it, we're going to engage with you. And if it means our team being turned and having to work till 4 o'clock in the morning, that's what will be done.
Thank you, Alan. I've got a couple of questions from Jill, and then I'll take Pete. She's put in the chat about the canisters. Now, I've noticed this as well. Some of the canisters, they're not the small silver ones anymore. They're gigantic, enormous canisters. And she's also asked about the branding. There's different brands. She's asking, is one brand more toxic than the other and another brands?
I'll be absolutely honest with you. As far as I'm concerned, they're all the same. My information on that is limited, to be fair. Because like, literally, we'll turn up, try and stop them from doing it, or try and stop people from it, but we just need them locations. So just send it on 101, we will pick it up or put it on the website. Okay, I try to encourage residents as well to use live chat, because I think that's really, it's faster than using the phone. You get a better service, I think, with live chat. So I always encourage residents to report, because they don't like hanging on the phone forever. Yeah, you can just do that while you're watching the television, and then be on the computer, you know, go straight onto live chat and report it that way. Because the 101 service is extremely busy, and I've phoned at 101 myself. Yeah. And I'm like, as an organisation, would you get that with Virgin? I said no, to be fair. I'm not criticising them, which is extremely busy, but live chat, give us information. We can only work on information, and I can only put my officers where and when they're needed to prevent crime, like it says. Burglaries, again, we are trying our best, and it is between 4 and 6 o'clock. You're not being a busybody, just tell us. Tell us, I can get stuff in or get other departments to support me.
Okay, Jill's put it, live chat without camera or sound, not possible. No, you can use it without that. You don't need the sound or the camera to use it. You just chat like we're chatting now. So you don't need the sound or the camera. And also Jill has asked about students targeting elderly people for fun. Has this been dealt with? And I think she's referring to an incident or a couple of incidents on Hodge Hill Common where students have just approached, tried to scare dog walkers or people, out and about on the common. I don't know if anything has been reported around this.
That's a no. I've not been made aware of that. If Jill can send me the details, I'll have a look at it as well.
Yeah, Jill, if you can send the details to Sergeant Keynes or use the live chat, and then that can be dealt with. Okay, thank you. Pete, you've had your hand up for a while. I'll take Pete and then Councillor Mahmood.
I just want to stick up for the police, actually, because
Thank you.
a lot of the stuff we're talking about here is quite low level. I mean, the silver canisters, if they're legal to buy, right, then people are going to use them. I know they're a bit of an eyesore around, but if you can buy them and it's legal, I don't see what the police can do other than if they're sort of off their heads and not capable. It's going to be difficult because I've seen them do it in the city centre as well. So that's one thing. Catalytic, I've had my catalytic converter stolen, and that was £870 odd. But again, unless the police are driving past and see them, it's going to be difficult. I haven't got CCTV outside my house, and we don't know when it was done. So that's another difficult one. The thing that bothers me at the moment, crime-wise, is perhaps something the sergeant can't deal with, but perhaps he could feed it up. And that's the state of driving around the ward and Bromford, because my wife's car had a mirror smashed off by a car the other day, going down Hodge Hill Road about 80 miles an hour. And I think everybody that you speak to, people just drive around like complete lunatics. I've got some sort of in-car camera footage, but would the police act on that at all? That's my question, sorry.
Yeah, Peter, if you send it to us, we can pick it up, we can still prosecute. We try and carry out a number of speed watch on our ward. And like I said, you got Fairham Road, you got Bromford Drive, Cllr Road is a racetrack. Yeah. You know, the traffic lights, from the traffic lights down to the Hunter's Moon is a racetrack. And I've got home, and even with a plane car, I'm like, what are you doing? Just slow down. So we try and literally get the PCSOs and the team out to reduce the amount of speed that people are doing, because ultimately, if somebody gets knocked over, you're not going to bring them back. You know, and I think doing that as well, we're visible as well. Our visibility is key to reducing crime, because as somebody said, the lack of crime is to do with the amount of police officers around. Well, I went to New York, and there's no crime in New York. Fair enough, they've got a massive budget. And I'm just speaking from experience. If we had that budget, we'd be sorted. So we do, again, apologise if we can't get it all the way, but we try and do our best. In relation to taxed vehicles, just before off, the car's going to be 2 months and 1 day out of tax, then we can recover it. I've said to the PCSOs, put out abandoned vehicles, and if any abandoned vehicles that they believe can be recovered, it's all up to the council. We have to get permission from our inspector before he'll authorise it. Normally, if nobody's got insurance or tax, we take them off the road, because if you've got no insurance and tax, are you up to no good? Are you acting as a criminal? We don't know. You know, and ultimately, a lot of people have to pay tax and insurance and other various things regarding vehicles. So why should anyone else pay it?
Thank you, Alan. A couple of questions I've got. I'm thinking about getting a camera, dash cam. Is there any particular type that is better that the police would advise, and something that's got suitable, that will provide suitable footage for the police to use in a prosecution?
I truly couldn't give you an idea regarding that. I don't know myself. So, like I said, the dash cam we can prosecute from that anyway.
Okay, and also has the police got any sort of stickers, and usually they give out sort of crime prevention items for the home, for the car. Is there anything available that we could distribute to residents?
We have a massive cupboard full of old stock, to be fair, that we had back in the day. Now that we're on the budget at the moment, so I'll see what the PCS has got, and I'll try and hand some stuff out as well. Right?
Yeah, I can let me know, and I'll drop by the station and collect it, and then you can hand it to residents. That's great, thank you. I've got Councillor Mahmood and Samira and Pete. I'll take them in that order. I did.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just what Sergeant Keynes was saying about funding. If we had funding, we would bring back bulky collections. We would bring back special street collections. I would build at least 6 football pitches, a couple of cricket pitches in the ward, but unfortunately we haven't got that luxury, so we're doing the best that we can. But we did hear at the last meeting we had with Simon Foster, the Police Crime Commission, that there was going to be some new appointments of PCSOs and police officers within the Hodge constituency. Just wondering if Sergeant Keynes could brief us on that. And secondly, just picking up on Pete's point, driving is quite bad, and we used to hold regular speed watches when we used to have a speed gun that was available to Shardin Police Station. So I'm not sure if we've now got a speed gun. If we have, could we increase the number of speed watch exercises now that it's a longer daylight hours? I think it's really really good if we can have that deterrent, so drivers around Bromford Hodge Ward don't know where or when there's going to be a speed gun. It does act like a good deterrent, so if we could increase the number of them. And the final question is around, I know your PCSOs have been doing some fantastic work, actually, to be fair. Many years ago, we used to have a police officer stationed on Bromford Road, because we've got 4 schools there: Hodge Primary, Hodge College, Hodge Girls and Braidwood Special School. And there never used to be any complaints of inconsiderate parking. As councillors, we installed some sort of like pedestrian handrails there and some bollards and stuff to stop inconsiderate parking. But I've noticed an increase again. Whenever the police officers aren't there, there's always problems with inconsiderate parking, and we're getting the same level of complaints now around Stetchford Road, Maryland Avenue, Ryman Road, and the avenues like Beaufort and Southbourne, and that's on the back of Colborne Primary School. The same thing's happening again, because parents tend to, the ones that aren't walking to collect their children, they tend to park there like half an hour before the school closes. So not only are they causing annoyance to residents as well, they're just like spending so much time parked in places that they shouldn't really be parking at. And again, it's so much like we tried this year, just on Pete's point again about bad driving. Stetchford Road, we've had unfortunately a number of incidents and fatalities even, and we did put in the proposal to build 2 pedestrian refuges on the road, pedestrian islands, to slow down the traffic. But because of procurement, I'm not sure when they're going to get done, but that is in the pipeline to get done. There's more of them that we would like to see, but it would be good if we could have like some form of rota for PCSOs to go around where the different schools are, because even on Shoresdale Road, St Wilfred School, and around the corner on Dragon Road, First Primary, I've had complaints from parents there about inconsiderate parking and illegal parking. I know 1st of June we may have the legislation passed that enables the police and council will have more powers to prosecute drivers who park onto the pavements and onto grass verges. So I'm not sure if that's come through, but I do hope that both the local police and the council do pump in resources to be able to enforce that as and when that comes about. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor.
All right, Councillor. In reference to officers coming to the team, I've been informed that we're going to have 3 substantive officers. That means they're going to be here for a minimum of 2 years. When they land, I don't know, because that all depends on what happens in HR. So I can say that's going to be happening soon. The speed gun, we have got a speed gun. I'll put my hand up. We've got 1 week and we can actually prosecute people, and we've got 1 week we use for advice. But I'll try and find the speed gun we can use for prosecution. But we normally try and do that early time, on a Saturday or on an evening. But again, that's depending on how many staff I've got regarding that. But the parking issue around the normal schools, that's a big issue across the whole force. I will literally send the PCSOs over up to the schools, predominantly Hodge Hill School, because that literally is absolute murder to drive down during the day. They were literally parking around the back, park outside the gate. We try to educate people and so on and so forth. We don't really want to go down the what's it called, prosecution route, because we're going to alienate people, but it's just about having a conversation. I know Hodge Hill School have spoke to the schools and have tried the best, but for some unknown reason people just won't listen. We've done messaging as well. That doesn't seem to work. So if it carries on, unless we can get like an enforcement officer down here, I tell you where we're going to really manage this problem.
Thank you, Alan. I've got Pete. I'll take Samira next because she's had her hand up for a while.
Thank you. This just a question to Alan. Just asking about cars that's not taxed or just like dumped from garages, say. Can I ask what happens on that occasion where you've got a whole road from garages that they've just dumped scrap cars? What happens there? You know, how do you get rid of them? Second of all, the canisters. Are the shops going to be made accountable for selling these canisters to people that they know probably are getting a high from them? Are they being made accountable?
But regarding the dump cars, if like I said, if they're untaxed and they're more than a day, even if they've got no engine, we can still recover them. If they are abandoned and they are taxed and MOT, we can't actually remove them regarding that point. In relation to the canisters, you could argue, are they selling them to underage kids, which are causing ASB? And I would say we could probably speak to the shop and get the owner in and actually speak to them or look at prosecuting them.
Thank you, Alan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Samira. Thank you for your question. Thanks. Okay, Pete, moving over to you.
I'm just going to say it's a really interesting conversation, actually, this. I'm going to pay the police again a backhanded compliment here. Because
cheers.
It might sound a bit odd, but I don't think I've seen a police officer for months, probably, which is must be a good thing, because it must mean there's not that much crime in the area where I particularly live. So obviously the police must be doing a good job.
Yeah, but my biggest issue is that people just need to tell us what's going on. If you don't tell us, we can't do nothing. You know, and I'll get loads of emails saying this is happening, that's happening, this is happening, and I'm like, we're doing as much as you can. But if you don't tell me, I can't sort it out. I can't sort everything, but I'll try my best to try and get it sorted.
What you mean? You can't be everywhere at the same time?
No.
He tries his best, but he can't.
And I think the car parking thing, especially at schools, is something the council really need to look at. Because Hodge Hill School in particular, if you look at the site, right, they've got a great big green playing field there. You could possibly have part of that as a car parking or a drop-off point and lose a bit of the grass, which I'm sure they don't use all the time. So it's no good trying to put it all onto the police, because the police won't be able to do every school every day. And I don't care what you say, because I've seen it myself. I've seen the police at Cllr tell people to move, right, and they move for that one day. The next day they're back in. Yeah. And they'll park on the zigzag lines. I've seen them park actually across the traffic lights.
They'll pay the fines and they keep paying the fines and they keep paying the fines. Some people just
don't bother them at all.
No.
And as for dumped cars from people that are garages, if they're not taxed, then surely that's fly tipping, and surely the council can do something about that as well.
We do remove the cars.
That's all.
So when we know about them, and that's why we encourage residents to report them to us or report them through live chat to the police.
Do they have to serve a notice on a car that's been dumped to give the owner a chance to
well, if it's after so many months, no, because if you've left your car for that long, it's obviously abandoned at that point.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you. Majid?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was a governor at Hodge Primary School for about 8 years, I think, until it converted to academy. Then I left for the obvious reasons. I don't really believe in academies. I would prefer all schools in the local education authority. But yeah, Pete, we have actually looked at that green space. It was looked at in a lot of detail whether we could convert that into some form of car park. But then it became apparent that because it's been used for sporting events, etc., at the school for children, and although there's an alternative available at Brockers playing fields, which is what we argued, was people at Sports England would probably object to it on the basis that you're losing sort of like green space for playing for kids into a car park. And I don't actually think the site would be suitable either, because it's adjacent to where we've got the mini roundabout. One of the reasons why the mini roundabout was installed all those years ago was to sort of like try to calm the traffic down as well. And on both Stetchford Road and on Bromford Road, as a council, we've spent, I would say, in excess of £60,000 now on raising the curbs, installing the bollards, installing the pedestrian handrails and the pedestrian islands. It's 3 during the highways budget last year, or the year before, 3 pedestrian islands we installed on the road. But again, the schools have expanded over the years. This is the problem. They've expanded in order to accommodate the number of children. I think Hodge College has got 1,200 children. 600. And Hodge College has got 1,200. Hodge Primary's got, I think, near enough 900. Hodge Girls 600. Then Braidwood Special School's got about 150, I think. So that's more than 2,000 children that attend 4 schools in the same vicinity. So it is difficult. What I was saying was that when we did used to have a dedicated police officer, I've got a name now, but she was really, really good. We didn't have these type of problems. It's only when you had the cuts to the police in, I think it was 2012 or 13, when there was huge cuts to the police in the West Midlands, when we lost about 2,000 or so officers, when they brought in Section 20, the redundancy. That's when we lost that officer, and she's never been replaced. The PCSOs, they do a brilliant job, as and when they can, but again, they can't be everywhere in the ward. We've got so many schools in the ward as well now, but it has been looked into, and we'll continue to try to work. And the schools, to be fair to the schools, every time we speak to them, they tell us that they've sent out letters to parents reminding them of their responsibilities. But what we could do is we are looking at safer schools. There's an initiative being run by the council where they're trying to move vehicles away from near to schools, but they have to carry out a study in terms of like trying to find out how many children live within walking distance. I live on Primley Avenue, which is around the corner from the Hodge School. So I've got a son at Hodge College, I've got a daughter at Hodge Girls, and I've got a daughter at Hodge Primary, and another son who's going to be attending Hodge Primary. And we've never ever taken the car, but I can tell you something. Even on my road, there are people that actually jump in the car to take their kids to school round the corner. And I find it quite shocking because it's only a 5-minute walk, if that. But it's about changing people's sort of like habits in terms of using the vehicles. And again, on air quality as well, there's some work that's been done on air quality, and we've approached some of the schools to install the monitoring equipment. And that campus of schools, I think that would be ideal, because I think there's more bad air when cars are just sitting there, not running, and the word idling there, just sitting there. And I think that happens a lot because people just, it's honestly, it's something else coming to Bromford Road roundabout. If anyone comes, and the other thing we have done is, Chair, over the years, and you'll know this because you've been involved as well, over the years, we've managed to convince the 3 different schools to change their closing times. So you've got a lapse of about 15-20 minutes. So they're changing the closing times, but still people come and they park outside for like half an hour before. And the residents themselves, they're up in arms. I know most of the residents live on Bromford Road, and they've got raised curbs. But even now, I find it quite shocking. I don't know how people even drive over raised curbs now. It's like they've found some form of technique to do that. And we've now, obviously, most people are aware, we've resurfaced the footpath on Bromford Road, most of it. Just the middle sections left. That'll be done later on. And people are now parking on the newly resurfaced footpaths. These are the parents, and we've had a plethora of complaints from residents saying, "Look, council, you've just gone and spent, I think it's £800,000 it cost us to resurface Bromford Road, and parents are coming and they're parking on the nice tarmac. Don't get me wrong, when you're walking on the pavement, Pete, it feels like it's like a spring in your shoes because it's so nice. But that doesn't give anyone an excuse to park their cars on there waiting for the kids to come. What we really need is an initiative where there's less reliance on cars taking kids to school. Even when I grew up in Alum Rock, and I never ever got into a car to go to primary schools. Only when I went to a secondary school, which was in Handsworth, that I had to catch a bus. But I do find it incredulous sometimes how the short journeys that people use just to get into, drop off their kids or pick their kids up. That is something that we do need to do some work on. Thank you, Chair.
We have got an incentive, and it's petrol prices.
All right, Councillor. I've got too many pieces, so we'll just quickly explain the issues regarding parking. Over to you, girls.
Hello. So we've got 8 schools on our patch, as you know, and the issues are more or less the same around all the schools. So parking within zigzags and blocking driveways. So we try and alternate. Well, we do alternate between all 8 schools in mornings and afternoons, pick up times. So that's the main issues really around most of them, not all of them. So we give advice and we issue tickets.
And fines.
So it's usually dangerous parking, which involves a £100 fine and 3 points. So hopefully it will be lessons learned for those parking in the wrong way.
I hope so, because it's just getting out of control now. I'm going to move. There's a couple of points that Jill has raised in the chat about going back to the silver canisters, and she's saying that the canisters are, the people using the silver bullets and canisters are definitely car drivers. Yeah, usually the drivers and the occupants of the cars. For example, if somebody was driving under the influence of cannabis, then that could be picked up in blood tests. Are the blood tests available for the users of these nitrous oxide?
Honestly and truthfully, don't know, and I couldn't really answer that question in all fairness. We haven't come across it. I've spoken to some of my colleagues on the road traffic units. I'm not aware, but if you are driving under the influence of anything that impedes your driving, you can get prosecuted. Yeah,
I believe that because the high lasts for seconds. It's and that's why they use so many, because they have a high and then they just keep on repeating it. So I don't know if it, I don't know if it stays in the bloodstream or not afterwards. But what I do know is it can cause brain damage and it can kill. Is there something we could do more around education to get over to these young people what risks they're putting themselves at?
I'll come back to you on that one, because I didn't know, in all fairness, and I'm slightly ignorant regarding the canisters, because obviously we deal with like Class A, Class B and Class C drugs in regarding that. I know it's just regarded as a cheap high and a quick high. That's all I know, to be fair. So me telling you otherwise would be wrong for me to say so.
Thank you. And Jill's asking, could we have more cameras in hotspots? Well, we can have cameras, but we've only got 11 cameras in the whole of the city. To determine if it's a hotspot, we have to have a certain amount of complaints. So it's who's got the highest complaints are going to get those cameras. So we need people to report incidents. Otherwise, we've not got a chance of getting those cameras.
Yeah, regarding the cameras, I think we might, because of what happened historically, we might struggle to get the cameras. Obviously, you'll have more cameras in city centre. If HS2 actually lands on us and it affects us, will they put cameras down there? Don't know. Because at the end of the day, it's all about funding. Because now a camera has to be managed and has to be funded. And it's quite expensive for somebody to manage a camera and actually look after one.
We have got these 11 state-of-the-art cameras, and they are, as you say, they are expensive. But to get one in Hodge Hill, we'd need a high level of reports. So we've got we need to evidence that it's needed. So we need people to report. That's the only way we're going to get it. I've got a question. Maddy's written in the chat, it would be really good if we could have the information around the number of tickets issued so we can highlight that too.
That's not a problem at all. I can forward that to you and Madge, and we do it on monthly newsletter as well.
Excellent. And I've got Nasheen who's joined us. You've got your hand up. Would you like to ask a question?
Hi, sorry, I
Hi.
joined a little late, so I just caught the tail end of the conversation there. So I just on parking. So I live on Stanlake Avenue, and there's a hell of a lot of inconsiderate parking around the school pickup and drop off times. Literally can't get off our drives, can't get onto our drives, and there doesn't seem to be any kind of anything being done about that. And then on the other side of that, our car broke down. And we had to start with a push start, so we parked on Hilltop Drive just so that we could get it started. Otherwise, it wouldn't start, and we ended up getting a ticket for that. So when you contrast the two, because somebody reported it, I mean, I feel like there should have been an opportunity, and motorists should be given a chance to kind of maybe send a letter and say, is there a reason why it's parked? Can you move it? It was only a couple of days, so I feel like maybe the attention isn't in the wrong place when it comes to things like this.
Yeah, normally we would look at how long the car's been there, speak to neighbours, and probably say ultimately leave it there for a day and then come back to it. If your car's being blocked, if your drive's being blocked, by definition, we couldn't actually physically get up and move. We could only ask people to move it in that respect. But if you report it to us, we can actually speak to the owner and tell them to be more considerate. It's the only way forward to get this issue sorted. The problem is everybody's got a car now, and like Councillor says, nobody walks anywhere now. Everybody is pick up, drop. And again, if we walk to school, but because everybody's moving so much, just because everybody's got such a demanding lifestyle at the moment, a car's essential to everybody.
Okay, thank you, Alan. Thank you, Machine, for that. I've got Pete, who's got his hand up. Pete, did you want to?
Yeah, I just wanted to come back on a couple of things that Councillor Mahmood said, actually. Firstly, I still think up at Hodge Hill School, you need to think of a better project other than trying to manage the cars on the road. You need to find somewhere. If you go to, say, Cllr Academy, they've got a turning point where people can drive in, pick up the kids, and then go back out again. You need to look at something like that, because otherwise, like we said earlier, people will just pay the fine and just carry on anyway. The other thing is, it's not just Bromford and Hodge Hill, is it? It's across the whole of the city, probably across the whole of the country.
The whole of the country, yeah.
So we need to look at ways of looking at managing it better than keep asking the police to do it. There needs to be some change, some sort of bylaw, perhaps, for Birmingham City Council. I know they're sort of not very happy at doing bylaws, but they could do one. The other thing I'd say back to Councillor Mahmood as well is I'd park on the path as well, because the road is absolutely appalling along Bromford Lane. £800,000 on the footpaths, and they look fantastic, right? But the road itself has got so many potholes in it rattles your teeth. And sorry, just the last thing, the nitrous oxide laughing gas canisters. Perhaps we should lobby the government to put a tax on them to try and put the price up so that people won't buy it because it'll be too expensive. A bit like alcohol.
Thank you, Pete. Cake should go up as well then.
I'll finish, thanks.
Okay,
Thanks, Chair.
thank you, Pete. Alan, would you like to come in on this, please?
I've just been speaking to some of the younger colleagues saying that we reference the canisters. You can actually buy them on eBay and Amazon apparently.
I don't think it's illegal to sell. So there's a big market out there. Obviously, it's not just in Birmingham. I should imagine it's countrywide.
I said yes.
Yeah, so maybe something we can take up with the MP that he could take to the House of Commons and do some sort of lobbying work to get something nationally on that. As a council, we wouldn't have the powers to intervene at that level. Are there any other comments?
Could I just add something as well?
Certainly. Yeah.
For the police to look into? I don't know what you call it. At the top, by the old clock garage.
Yeah.
There's like a pull in there.
Sorry, that's a car going past outside. I do apologise. Right, it weren't me. There's
like a pull in. I think it used to be an old bus terminus.
Bus terminus, yeah.
So I go out walking most nights or most days as part of my 10,000 steps. Right, and every time I walk past there seems to be some strange activity going on. And my feeling is that people are coming straight off the motorway, and that's a perfect place for them to meet, because you see cars pull up, and another car pulls up, and then something happens, and then off they all go again. So I was just thought I'd mention that in case the police want to just perhaps have a look at it.
Does that happen at a certain time of the day?
It doesn't seem to matter. What you tend to find, or what I've found, is the cars that I've seen, they come off, they don't know that little lay-boy's there. So they go down Heathlands Avenue, turn around there, and then go back to it. And then off they go, and then another car appears, and who knows what's going on. I can guess.
What do they do? What do
they do? So one car will park up, and there'll already be a car there, and then you'll see people ferreting backwards and forwards between the two cars.
Do you see?
Obviously, I can't see exactly what's happening, but
do you see anything exchanged or
drug dealing or something? You suspect?
Possibly, yeah.
Pete, what time we're looking at?
It can be any time, but normally I go sort of, mostly in the summer. This is sort of evening time, 6, 7 o'clock. I've even been stopped and somebody's asked me where the lay-boy was.
All right, I'll have a look at it. We'll just speak to the team. I'm aware that spot, so we'll have a look at that. All right.
Okay, cheers.
Thanks for raising that.
Councillor Jill's put something in the chat about that.
Yes, they do. We've seen them at 11 a.m. at the start of our litter picking. They do drug dealing there. Thanks.
All right, then. I'd like to speak to the team. We'll have a look at that. All right. But thanks for the information. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Right. Well, we're running out of time now, so it's been a really productive meeting this evening, and thank you to all our presenters, Scott, Samira, and Sergeant Keynes for attending this evening and presenting to us the events, talking about events in the ward and what's happening basically in the area. Pete, did you want to come in again?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think this is a good forum for council meetings. I know I'll
online. You mean online?
I mean the Microsoft meeting thing's been online, yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I did say to Beverly that I wanted face-to-face ones, but I do actually prefer these. And the reason is that I haven't got to travel for a start to get to somewhere. And the other reason is that if I'm out somewhere else, I can still come into the meeting on my phone. So I think it's a really good idea.
It is good. I think maybe in the future we can mix it up, because there are some people that still prefer face-to-face meetings, but maybe we can mix it up and have both. So I don't know what I've got. Councillor Mahmood, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's good for air quality as well, because obviously no one's jumping in their car to go to a venue. But we have, I mean, obviously Pete's been away because he's not been well. Good to see him back and in good health. We've actually held more ward forum meetings online than any other ward in the city. I think we've had must have at least be approaching 25 or so now. We've had more. I know last time we checked the statistics, because what we did was, because of COVID, we wanted to make sure we had a meeting. You know, we tried to get a meeting once a month, because there was our caseload increased, you know, significantly through COVID. And I do actually personally, I prefer the online meetings, but there are a lot of residents who also want face to face. So I think, if re-elected, we can still speak about that. Purdah kicks in a few hours. We're all right. If re-elected, we will promise to have both online and public face-to-face, pending obviously that you know, there's no restrictions in place. But I think one every other month would be good. So have one online meeting and then one face-to-face like that throughout the year. That way you can capture as many people as possible. And I know the police meeting we had with Simon Foster, we had at least 30 residents turn up. That was one of our busiest ever.
Yeah, that was a really good one.
Yeah, it was really
We
good.
could
So I
also
think going
do
forward,
hybrid meetings where it's live, but people who can't attend can join us via the link. But that we've got to look into the technology surrounding that going forward.
We've taken up 2 hours as well, which is probably maybe a record for the longest ward forum meeting in the city as well. We need to check the records, baby, if we can at some point. And Scott's been sitting there very patiently, so thank you. Thank you, Scott, for hanging in for the 2 hours. And thank you to Sergeant Alan, Samira, and all the residents that have turned up as well, especially Jill. And just a shout out to Jill. It's because of Jill, not because of the mobile household recycling trucks, that Hodge is so clean, Bromford and Hodge, because Jill is a legend. If you look at the amount of issues she reports, she's actually probably overtaken me as well now in terms of Twitter. And just a shout out to BCC Help on Twitter, the officers that work within BCC Help. If Scott, you can give them a shout out as well when you're back in the depot, because we don't know who they actually are. There's always different names, but they're really, really helpful to residents whenever they report anything on Twitter. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Majid. Yeah, and thank you, Jill. And I know the people of Bromford and Hodge Hill appreciate all the hard work you do. They mention you often, and they do appreciate you a lot. So thank you. And thanks for everyone for coming along and attending the meeting, and for your time and for your input. It's been valuable input that we can work on going forward. And thanks to Scott and Samira and Alan, and we look forward to these all-out days that we can sort of really get to grips and get the community involved. And your hard work is already producing good results in the ward, but we'd like to build on that, and then Bromford and Hodge Hill will be a really clean and safe place to live. Thank you, everyone. And just to let you know, you can watch recordings of the meetings in your own time on the council YouTube channel. Thank you, everyone, and we hope to see you. We hope the next one will be after the election. If we get re-elected, we hope to see you there. Okay, thank you very much.
Bye.
Okay, good night.
Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Bye all.
Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.